Java constructors or constructors in Java is a terminology used to construct something in our programs. A constructor in Java is a special method that is used to initialize objects. The constructor is called when an object of a class is created. It can be used to set initial values for object attributes. So, in mainly, what are constructors in Java? Basically, in Java, a constructor is a block of codes similar to the method. It's called when an instance of the class is created. At the time of calling the constructor, memory for the objects is allocated in the memory. It's a special type of method that's used to initialize the object. Every time an object is created using the new keyword, at least one constructor is called. So let's look at example of Java constructor. Let me just copy it and paste in my text editor and change class name to examples. So as you can see, first we have outputting the named constructor code. Yes, we can see. As you can see, we just call a driver class and called constructor. Yes. Yes, that's all. So let's move on. As you can see, the output value is same. And there is also note. It's not necessary to write a constructor for all class. It's because the Java compiler creates a default constructor with no arguments if your class doesn't have any. So how Java constructors are different from Java methods? Constructors must have the same name as the class within which it's defined. It's not necessary for the Java method. Yes. And second is constructors do not return any type, while methods have the return type of void if it does not return any value. Constructors are called only once at the time of object creation, while methods can be called any number of times. Now let us come up with a syntax for constructors being invoked at the time of object or instance creation. So there is we have class geek, and there also will be some classes, and a constructor is geek. You can create an object above the class using the below statement. This statement calls above constructor. So the first line of constructor is called to super or this, and a call to a constructor of a superclass or overloaded constructor. If you don't type as a call to super in your constructor, the compiler will provide you the with and non-argument call to super as the first line of your code. The super constructor must be called to create an object. So, need of constructors in Java. Basically, think of a box. If you talk about a box class, then it will have some class variables, say length, breadth, and height. But when it comes to creating an object, box will now exist in the computer's memory. Then can a box be there with no value defined for its dimensions? The answer is no, because constructors are used to assign values to the class variables at the same time of object creation is explicitly done by the programmer or by Java itself. So, when Java constructor is called, each time an object is created using a new keyword, at least one constructor, it could be default constructor, is invoked to assign initial values to the data memory members of the same class. Rules for writing constructor are as follows. First is the constructors of a class must have the same name as the class name in which it resides. Second is the constructor in Java cannot be abstract, final, static, and synchronized. Third is access modifiers can be used in constructor declaration to control its access, which other class can call the constructor. So by far we have learned constructors are used to initialize the object state. Like methods, a constructor also contains a collection of statements that are executed at the time of object creation. So, types of constructions in Java. There is we have three types of constructions. First is default constructor, parameterized constructor, and copy constructor. First, default constructor in Java. A constructor that has no parameters is known as default the constructor. A default constructor is invisible, and if we write a constructor with no arguments, the compiler does not create a default constructor. It's taken out, it's being overloaded and called parameterized constructor. The default constructor changed it into the parameterized constructor, but parameterized constructor can't change the default constructor. First we give an example. Let me just copy it and pass here. Yes, we have default constructor, call it default constructor, and this code is working. So there is we have Java class named by GFG, and there is we just call the class, and it just printed default constructor. So, and there is note the default constructor provides the default values to the object like 0, null, and other things depending on the type. Second is parameterized constructor in Java. A constructor that has parameters is known as parameterized constructor. If you want to initialize fields of the class with our own values, then use parameterized constructor. So we have an example. So data members of a class, string name and int. And we have also second class is named by GFG, and this would invoke a parameterized constructor. So geek, we just call an object and printing geek name with this geek name and geek ID with this geek ID. So geek name is Avinash and geek ID is 68, as you can see. Yes, we have the same values. So remember, does constructor return any values? There are no return value statement in the constructors, but the constructors return the current class instance. We can write return inside the constructor. So the rest of examples. So let's copy it and paste in my text editor. So Java programs that illustrate constructor overloading using the same task addition operation for different types of arguments. So class geek constructor with no one argument, name constructor with two arguments, int age and name constructor with one argument but different types than previous is long id, and we just creating the object of a class named geek by passing different arguments, invoke the constructor with one argument of type string. So calling objects, values of name is Chihar, and invoke the constructor with two arguments, calling objects, name is Darmesh, age 68, no, 26. So invoke the constructor with one argument of type long, calling objects with ID, yes, with that ID. So let's just run or launch my code. As you can see, constructor with one argument, type value string, name is Chihar. Constructor with two arguments, string and integer, name Dharmesh, age 26, and construct with one argument, long, and this is just AD of, I don't know, of Dharmesh maybe. So the last is copy constructor in Java. Unlike other constructors, copy constructor is passed with one is with another object which copies the date available from the passed object to the newly created object. So there is no, in Java there is no such inbuilt copy constructor available like in other programming languages such as C++. Instead, we can create our own copy constructor by passing the object of the same class to the other instance object of class. So let me just copy, for example, this copy constructor. So data members of class int and id, no, name and id, string and int. Parameterized constructor, int and id, copy constructor, and this will invoke the parameterized constructor. Yes, printing first object, name Avinage, id 68, name and geek id. We're just printing. This will involve the copy constructor, and with printing copy constructor use the second object and just printing geek name and geek id. So let's run it and check it. So first object is geek name Avinesh and geek id 68, and copy constructor use the second object. As you can see, name also Avinesh and id is also 68. Nothing changes, we just copy it. So that's all. And this video we discussed about method of loading in Java and constructor in Java. So goodbye.